Hi everyone! Today, let's dive into the fascinating mind of Immanuel Kant and his unique take on the existence of God. Now, Kant isn't one to hand us simple answers, but his approach is both deeply philosophical and surprisingly practical. First off, Kant actually rejected the traditional proofs of God's existence. Philosophers before him, like Anselm, Descartes, and Aquinas, used reason and logic through the ontological argument, the cosmological argument, and the design argument. But Kant wasn't convinced. He argued that our knowledge is limited to what we can experience, things in space and time. God, however, is beyond experience, so pure reason can't prove or disprove God's existence. For instance, the ontological argument claims that because we can conceive of the most perfect being, God must exist. Kant famously challenged this by saying existence is not a predicate. You can't just define something into existence. Just because I can imagine a perfect being doesn't mean it exists in reality. Here's where it gets interesting. While Kant denies that we can know God exists through logic, he still believes that faith in God is necessary. And this is where his moral argument comes in. Kant believed that each of us has a moral law within us, a deep sense of right and wrong. He called it the categorical imperative, a principle that tells us to act in ways that we could will to become universal laws. In simpler terms, act as if your actions should become a standard for everyone. But Kant observed that in this world, moral virtue doesn't always lead to happiness. Good people suffer, bad people often thrive. Yet we all strive for what Kant called the summum bonum, the highest good, where virtue and happiness are united. So, how is that possible if, in our daily experience, the world seems unjust? Here's Kant's move. In order to make sense of this moral striving, we must postulate, not prove, the existence of God and an afterlife where justice is fulfilled. In this eternal realm, moral worth is rewarded with happiness. For Kant, belief in God is not about evidence or logic, it's about moral necessity. We must assume God exists so that our moral actions are not in vain, so there is hope for justice beyond this flawed world. In conclusion, Kant's proof of God isn't like traditional arguments. He's not trying to convince you with syllogisms or observations of nature. Instead, he invites you to see that belief in God gives moral life meaning and purpose. It's not a matter of knowledge, but of faith grounded in reason. Faith that the good we pursue matters and that, in the grand scheme of things, justice will prevail. Thanks for listening, and remember, Kant challenges us not just to think, but to live morally, with hope that goodness is never wasted.